All right, good morning. Um, as you can probably tell from the title already, today is a backend day. And last week we came up with, or I came up with a really good solution to, or I think it was a good solution to um, the problem that I've been having, which is how do we make sure that we have an even number of uh, women and men in the event at the same time or in the app at the same time, which is a very difficult problem to solve because if someone signs up today for an event that's in 3 months, then really in the real world, when you sign up to just an app event, there is no guarantee that you're going to show up at all. So even though it could look like on paper that we have a 50-50 split between women and men, on the actual day, maybe only like 50% of the people that did sign up will actually show up. So we needed some sort of way to make sure that we have active attendees, if that makes sense. And the way that I came up with, or what I came up with in order to solve that, is we send out emails and we're very open about everything. So we tell the users that, first of all, we just confirm that did you actually mean to sign up to this event? Like, do you want to come to the event? And in that email, we could tell them or ask them something like, do you want us to start putting together a list of matches for you? And then they can respond to that. And if they do respond to that, then that's one interaction that they've made with us. That's further confirmation that they will actually show up to the event. And then once that confirmation has happened, we could start putting together a list of matches for them, which will probably be pretty quick depending on how many users have signed up. But for each new match that happens, we could send an email to the user. Hey, you got a new match. Do you want to read about them? There's a link to like the profile of the match. And so each of those interactions that happen or each of those emails that get sent is then further confirmation that this person will show up to the event. And that will then give us some sort of robustness in terms of like knowing that these are the people that are actually going to show up. And that could make us or have us make it easier to really guarantee, or as close to as possible, guarantee a 50-50 split between men and women on the actual day of the event. Which I think that's a good solution, in my opinion. I think that's probably one of the better ways to solve that problem. Um, the next thing is just how do we keep track of the queues? Because what we need to do is we need to have a list of female attendees, a list of male attendees, and then we need to keep track of which ones are actually interacting with these notifications or emails. And depending on the interactions, we then have to delete them from the list maybe, or put them in separate lists, which are like dormant users maybe. And if the amount of people changes in these lists, then we have to change the restrictions, because I think we do need some sort of restriction in terms of like, if one guy signs up, then the next person to be able to be signed up has to be a woman, and then so on, because that kind of limits the amount of extra people that might sign up for the event that won't actually be able to. Um, I don't know if that makes any sense. Something else I wanted to touch on, is before we get started, is that a lot of people are asking about the AI stuff. Like some people are commenting that I'm using ChatGPT more than just writing any code, and or that I'm not coding, I'm just doing ChatGPT, which is true, to be honest. Like most of what the code that's been written so far has been written by ChatGPT, and I've just made small changes to it. And I think I'm pretty good at the stuff when it comes to like thinking what is the actual goal. So the way that I think about using AI is, what is my goal? Is my goal to get really good at writing the code, or is my goal to get the app finished as fast as possible? And what I'm trying to keep in mind all the time is like, my goal is to get this app done as fast as I possibly can on my own. And for that, it seems like ChatGPT is a good choice. Like, I'm not necessarily looking to get any better at writing the specific lines of code. I do miss some sort of some understanding in some areas, like when I paste in certain things when it comes to like creating Lambda functions. Like, I don't fully understand it yet, but I think that what I've noticed is that with ChatGPT, I can get it done very quickly. And that means that I can do several, because I will need to do several different like Lambda functions, let's say. And so maybe I won't remember or understand the first time I do it, but that would be the case even if I did it on my own. I wouldn't remember it the first time I did it. I'd probably remember it a little bit better, but it usually, in my experience, it takes multiple times of doing something before you actually start to remember how to do it or understand how to do it. And when it comes to the specifics of the lines of code written, I understand the lines of code. I don't necessarily understand, I wouldn't be able to write it blindly, but I just understand the lines of code. It's just that I would have to, if I didn't use ChatGPT, I would have to use like Stack Overflow and look for how do you do this? How do you add this function? Where do you put this specific line of code, and where do you do that? And to me, ChatGPT is just a faster Stack Overflow. So I don't know. I think something that I notice a lot too is that, like, when you're writing code, when you're coding an app, a lot of coding an app is just writing, especially in like Flutter, it's just writing like container and then creating like the height and the width and the size of it, the color of it, and the borders, all that stuff. And it's just very tedious, very repetitive, and it's not really super useful. So what I can do now is I can write to ChatGPT, create a profile page for me, let's say, and it will create a profile page. And then what I can do is, once I have that page, I understand the actual code enough to be able to just adjust it and make sure that it looks the way that I want it to look. But I think that's because I've also been working with Flutter for a while, and I've been programming for a while regularly, or in the old way, I guess. So I'm not really sure what, like, if you didn't know programming today, how would it be like, or what would it be like to start using ChatGPT? I think I'm sort of in like a middle ground where I'm not, I've never really worked for a proper company or like gotten the, I feel like when people work as programmers for a few years, they get really efficient, they get really good at programming, and they get really good at whatever their task at work is. But since I haven't really done that, I've just been doing like multiple different apps or projects here and there all over the place with different languages and things. I haven't really become like an expert at Flutter, or I haven't become an expert at Python. And so I feel like I'm not at the tier of someone that has been, even though I've been programming for like since 2018, I'm not at the level of a programmer that's been programming since then and also been working since then. Uh, so I'm very like far below that, but I understand broadly kind of how programming works and what to write and how to make things work. Which means that when I write to ChatGPT, I kind of know what to write to it, and I kind of understand the responses and where to put it, and I also understand how to adjust it most of the time. So if you didn't know any of that, I don't know what it would be like to use ChatGPT, because a lot of it is just knowing what question to ask. And Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's sort of like sometimes I can question whether it makes me faster or whether it makes me actually slower. But I think on average or on the whole, I think it makes me faster. I think I've gotten way more done way faster than I would have on my own. But on the micro level, there's like things that take a little bit longer than they could have if I just would have Googled and read some article about it. But I'm kind of willing to take that risk sometimes because on the macro level, I think it makes me faster. And again, the goal for me, I always try to keep in mind like, what is the goal? The goal is to get it done as fast as possible. The goal is to get a minimum viable product out as fast as possible. Um, and I think my biggest problem is not actually with that sort of stuff, the technical part. I think my biggest problem is figuring out what is the MVP because I don't think I have. I think I could have a smaller MVP at this point. I could make an app where you can just log into the app and then scroll through, similar to like Omegle or something, where you could just scroll through phone calls with people and whoever is online at the time is who you talk to, and if no one's online, that's you don't talk to anyone. Um, I think I can make an app like that faster than what I'm trying to make here. But then, yeah, I don't know. It's hard to decide what an MVP is going to be. And I think that's really where I don't know. I think that's where I am a little bit not. I think I've my scope for the MVP is a bit bigger than it should be, I think. And what was I going to say? And yeah, I think my whole point here is that for me, ChatGPT is like a tool that just helps me focus on the difficult parts of this project. So I can get help from ChatGPT about those difficult things as well. But for me, if I need to write out a page for the app, then instead of me doing it myself, I ask ChatGPT to do it, and then I can think about like the specifics of how does the backend interact with this front end, and I can get ChatGPT to write out a model for the database, but then I have to think about like, well, how does that model or what should the model be doing and how should it work? I can ask ChatGPT about that as well, but it sort of like helps me focus on, I hope at least it helps me focus on the more difficult problems and speeds me up when it comes to the easier things, um, if that makes sense. Now I'm just stuck in my head. I'm trying to think like, well, should I just make this MVP a voice-based Omegle? It's difficult when you're like, the only way to solve that problem is like just thinking about it. I just need to think, is that a good idea or not? Because I read this book, or I'm reading this book by, I think it's called Adam Scott, and he's the guy who wrote Dilbert. And the book is called something like The Failures That, let me just, Adam Scott Failing. He's not called Adam Scott. He's called Dil. Scott Adams. Scott Adams. How to Fail at Almost Everything and Still Win Big. That's a book that I'm reading right now. And in that book, he talks about how successes in his experience throughout his life, and he's apparently started very, like, a lot of things, but failed at most of them. And in his experience, what he says is that most of the things that end up being successes later on start out as successes as well. And what he meant, or what he's trying to say there, is that if something starts out as a failure, if something's really bad straight out of the gate and doesn't get any traction, like let's say that you create a YouTube channel and very early on in uploading videos, you just realize that no one's really watching this, no one's giving me any positive feedback, then that could be a sign that this is actually not that great. Whereas if you, in his experience, when he has launched different things from the start, even though they haven't been amazing successes straight away, they've had some success straight away for all the things that ended up being great successes later on. And so the idea that I'm thinking about is what you tend to want to do when it comes to app development is create an MVP, which is a minimum viable product, and that is supposed to be the most scaled back version of the app that you want to make as possible. And the idea is to just test the waters to see, does anyone want this? Is this at all interesting to anyone? And the idea is that you can get that done very quickly because it's so scaled back. There's only has like one feature maybe, or only has the absolute core feature. And then once you have that created, then you can start to iterate on that and add features. But you can first of all just test, is this something that's interesting to people? And so after reading that book yesterday, I'm thinking a little bit, should I just create something like that to test the water, to see if, do people like it? Are people in there? Are people going to use it? And then if people like it, if people use it, then we can iterate on it and add features to it, which could be, but the problem is then, I guess, what is the core product? Like, is the core product the events? Because we can't really, or what I'm thinking right now is that, is it possible to start out with it being like a Tinder type of thing where you just swipe through people and you talk to them while you're swiping? And then all of a sudden you remove the swiping feature and you say that, well, now you're only going to be able to swipe on Tuesdays at 8 p.m. I think that's not great, because I think that's going to make people feel like, well, I used to be able to swipe every single day and now I'm only able to swipe on Tuesdays. Why is that better than swiping every day? And then you have to think about, but what is the goal of the app? Is the goal of the app to get people to use it, or is the goal of the app to get people to have connections with each other and actually like help people really find each other? Because if the goal, or if the core goal of the app is to help people find each other in the best way possible, then that's going to have to make me, that's going to impact the decisions that I make and in a certain way. Whereas if I just want people to use the app, then that's going to impact my decisions in a completely different way. Like, I think the app that would be more used would be the app where you can just swipe through, like similar to Omegle, but without the video, where you swipe through different conversations with people. And that would require that there's enough people on the app to where you can actually do that. But I think that would be less, I don't think that would be as good when it comes to helping people actually find each other, because I feel like um, the Tinder thing could be something where you end up feeling like, well, I can just swipe through these people, and people kind of lose value because there's so many people, and you just swipe through them every single day, and you swipe all the time, and then all of a sudden, like, you've seen so many people in a week that um, you don't remember any of them. Whereas if you had like one event every single week, like on Tuesday at 8, I talk to 5 people. I think you're going to remember those 5 conversations, most of them at least for a week, maybe longer. And I think they will have more value as well if there's fewer of them. But the negative to that, and that's a real negative, is that you only get to talk to 5 people or 6 people per week, let's say, or maybe per day, depending on how many users are in the app or how many events we decide to have. Uh, and realistically, if you want to find someone, is 6 people per week going to be enough? Like, you're going to have a higher chance of actually finding the one if you talk to more people. But if you talk to more people, you also lower the value of each person in a sense. I feel like, I don't know if this is actually true, what I'm saying. But my initial thought is that the more people you talk to, the less value each conversation will have. And it would suck, obviously, if you go to the event and you talk to 6 people and you're just like, none of these people even replied to what I was saying. Like, people just sat there quietly and didn't talk back or didn't put any effort in, or like that sort of stuff, because that could happen. And that would probably suck, and that probably maybe even make you not want to use the app anymore. Yeah, I don't know. Because I think it's important not to launch the app with a feature that you're then going to restrict or remove completely. So maybe I should talk about this actually. I came up with the idea of having like an event night every week, based on the fact that, like, there's multiple reasons for coming up with that strategy. But the idea was to essentially, at the start, there won't be that many people there. There will be not that many users. And if there's not that many users on a dating app, the dating app pretty much loses its entire value, because it just feels dead if there's no users on the app. And so my thinking about, like, how do you solve that problem? Well, the way to solve that problem is to have an event every week where you kind of condense the existing users, so that the few existing users actually are on the app at the same time. Because this app is also, it kind of requires active users. You can't have passive users, which is like what Tinder can do. Because Tinder can have passive users that sign up today and then don't use the app for a month. They can still exist in the deck of cards for some other user. They can still be used as swipeable people in the app. Whereas if the app requires that the person sits in front of their microphone ready to talk to people, then if you only have 10 users per week that's on the app, then the probability that those like 2 users will be on the app at the same time on the same day is kind of low. And even if we have like 100 users, which is not an insignificant amount of users, the probability that they'll be on the app at the same time on the same day is still kind of low, which means that you could have kind of a lot of users on the app and it would seem still like there's no one there. And that's not very good. But if we do the event thing, then we could take 10 users and condense it into a 1 hour event where those 10 users felt like this is such a like everyone's here. Like I talked to 5 people and each person can talk to 5 people because there's 10 people in the app. And those 5 people will feel, or those 10 people will feel like there are people in the app and it's an active app and there's something happening there. So it's kind of a way to, it's a genuine way, I think, to make people feel like there are people in the app because there are people in the app and we're trying our best to make people, uh, to have people be there at the same time. So that's how I came up with the event solution. And is that a good, I think it's a good, I don't know why I'm questioning things today, but I am questioning things. Something I'd like to know is what what was it like for Omegle when they started, or how did they even work? Because I keep bringing it up, but I don't know actually how Omegle works, because they must have had these problems. point. Okay, I've been talking to Grok now for the past like 2 hours, just trying to think through the idea because I really want the app to be genuinely focused on like trying to actually help people find someone, or it doesn't have to be like find someone, the love of your entire life, but just find a genuine connection, someone that you want to date, someone that you want to see in some sort of way. Um, and the goal is to make it better than whatever is out there right now. And I think my original idea came from Tim Ferriss said something in an interview with Chris Williamson where he said like, I wish there was just an Omegle for dating. an omegle for dating. And when he said that, I was like, oh, well, I could probably build something like that. And if he says it, I don't know, there was something about what he said, that he is the person that said it, and how he said it, that made me, those three things kind of aligned to make me think that this is probably a good idea. And then I started thinking about it myself, and I was like, that is probably a good idea. And so the original idea was just to have like, basically just have an omegle, but make it more specific towards dating. Um, but there's a lot of problems with that, and one of the main issues is just the ratio. Like, one thing that I would really would want to solve is um, the ratio issue with dating apps. Like, the classic thing right now is that it's oversaturated with men and undersaturated with women. Women get lots of matches from pretty much all people all the time. This is not true for all the girls, but that's generally, on the whole, if you do a bell curve of this, that is what it looks like. Most women get lots of matches, and they have tons of people there for them waiting that they could talk to. And then there's lots of guys that just don't get any matches at all. And so, and the main issue with that, I think, is also that the dating apps is, there's an there's sort of like not juxtapositioning, but almost that, which is that the dating apps almost pull in opposite directions in what they're doing, because like, there's too many guys, too few women, but the app is set up so that, in the way that most guys want it to be. Like, guys want to see pictures of the girls before they decide to talk to someone. Guys tend to be more um what is this called? Like, on the whole, I think guys are tend to be more appearance focused, like um more visual, and women tend to be less visual. So the app is sort of set up so that guys get to find matches with girls, but there aren't that many girls, and girls don't get the type of matches that they want. Like, most girls in studies seem to prefer other things. Like, the visual isn't necessarily as important for most girls if you do studies on it. It tends to be other things that can be of higher value for them. And so that's why phone calls, in that case, without any visual representation of people, is sort of set up to be better for women, because that could give them the stuff that they need to get interested in people. Like, you get to actually talk to someone, you get to hear their voice, personality, um, what they talk about. You get to have some sort of connection with someone. That's really good for the women, because that will mean that they will get more invested in the people that they talk to. Whereas when they just swipe through pictures of people, they tend to get less invested, also because they get more matches, so they have way more matches than guys do. Guys, on the other hand, don't have that problem. Like, they want the visual thing, but they, right now, a lot of guys don't get any matches online. And so that is probably because they might not be um, they might not benefit from the visual only format, which is what Tinder and most dating apps are right now. They're visual only, but since that's not the most important thing for most women, it's sort of like a skewed relationship. I'm trying to explain this the best way I can. I feel like it's sort of difficult, but women care more about personality, men care more about appearance, but the only thing that women have to judge on is appearance. And the only thing, and there aren't, I don't know. And what we want to optimize for is for the women, because we want as many women as possible in the app. If you had a dating app with way more women than men, then that would be the dating app that every guy would want to go to. So, yeah, it's just, that's what I want to try to create. I want to try to create something where it's sort of like evening out the playing field, where we optimize for both genders at the same time. We optimize for the maximum amount of women, and then we optimize for the maximum um, connection with guys. I don't know. I struggle to explain this. I think you get it, probably. Yeah, okay. So this is how you explain it. You optimize for guys, the way to optimize is to have as many women as possible on the platform. And for girls, the way to optimize is to make sure that they actually find a genuine connection to people that they swipe through. And the way to do that is to actually have calls with the people. So if we optimize for experience when it comes to women, then more women will be on the app. And if more women are on the app, then that is optimized for men, if that makes sense. Um, I think this all makes sense. I don't know. But then the question is like, well, do we just have the regular Omegle thing going on and that's enough? Because it's still going to be better than a Tinder, for instance. Or because the other idea that I came up with, I think, is one step further. That's even more genuine and more focused on the real thing, which is to have a date night where you actually curate matches for people and they get a dedicated hour every week where they get to talk to those people. And then the rest of the week, they can't just swipe through infinite amounts of people. They just have those whatever matches they found on that night, and they can talk to them throughout that week, and they can't talk to anyone else. And that way you kind of create more genuine connections with people. I think that's a really good idea, but I also think that it really limits things, and it also makes it kind of adds a lot of complexity to the app that may not be necessary. Um, because we want people to be on the app, and if we've already created the thing where it's like you don't swipe through pictures, you actually swipe through phone calls with people. I think we've already created something that's one notch, I think, better than Tinder, because you straight away get an instant connection with someone. You can talk to them, and I think like within a few minutes, you're gonna know if this is someone that you'd be interested in talking to again, or if it's just not someone you'd be wanting to talk to, which is something that even if you text someone for weeks, you might not know if you're going to actually have a connection if you meet up in real life. Whereas if you had a phone call straight away, then you kind of understand like this person seems interesting. This person seems to be genuinely trying to move the conversation along. They're interested in what I'm interested in, or they're like, it's so easy to kind of get that sort of information from a phone call. And I think that already is a concept that's better than the dating apps that are out there right now, I think. I'm just scared about like, I don't want to create something where I optimize for users over, like, I don't want to get lost in it, because it's really easy to get lost in it and start doing the wrong things. So I need to make sure that I have like my values need to be on top all the time. Like it has to be the top priority to maintain those values. and then figure out like every decision that I make, does it align with the values that I have for the app and for myself. But because, for instance, you could create, you could do the Omegle thing, and then like you could pay women to be on the app, and that's a way to get more women on the app. But that then doesn't really align with the value of like, I actually want this to be a real thing. I don't want to um, fool people into something, or to disingenuously, or like be, I don't know, just do things in the wrong way. I'm trying to think of like a good example of what you could do. But yeah, you could incentivize people in some sort of way to be on the app when the the goal of the app isn't to get people to be on the app. The goal of the app is to help people make actual connections. And so if I do the wrong thing there, and I think that's very easy to just kind of lose track of it, because you can come up with a good idea for like, well, this would actually get people into the app. This would make people want to be there. And then you forget that, like, well, yes, it would make people want to be there, but it would kind of destroy the dating aspect of it. Or, yeah, I don't know. Um, let's say like a feature that could be interesting would be to have a record option where you can decide to record the phone call, let's say. And that could be good because that could create viral TikToks or shorts or reels, for instance. Like, let's say that people record their conversations and then post them somewhere. That could be really good for marketing, because it could make people um, like, people could post like, oh, I had this super crazy strange conversation with this super odd person, and that might be a viral thing that would make lots of people sign up for the app. But then does that align with the values of me or the app? I don't really know, because like that would mean that we would actively allow, or maybe even encourage users to sort of bully other users. And that's not what you want in an app like this, I don't think. Um, so I think that's a good example of a strategy that could help increase signups, but might decrease the authenticity of the app, or the trustworthiness of the app. So yeah, I don't know, but I'm leaning towards just going with a very basic now, Omegle style voice chat swiping thing. So basically, you sign up for the app, you set what gender you are and what gender you prefer, and then once you're in the app, you just sit and you wait for people to connect, and we will just filter through people and try to give every user someone to talk to, which is a slow start, because that would mean that you might show up to the app on day one and there will be no one there. But it's also a good way to see, do people come back to the app? Like, if you download the app, open it up, there's no one there, and you're like, okay, that's fine, because you understand that it's a new app, and then you go out of it. Do you come back to it later that day to check, is there someone there now? Do you come back to it tomorrow? Do you come back to it in a week? Because that will kind of give some indication of like, well, people are interested in it. It's just that there's not enough people there. And then once that has been confirmed. You can go in and start doing like marketing for the app and try to get people to show up to the app so that people can actually have conversations. And hopefully with the videos I make, maybe there might be some initial user base, I hope. But we'll see. Okay, so today was just a thinking day, but we need these days too. I feel like I'm just not. Sometimes I just like feel like I don't start out the best way. I start out too fast sometimes. Like I've already built a lot of things, and now I'm realizing maybe I shouldn't have all those things. Maybe I should just make it smaller, make it easier. Because really, we already have the phone calling functionality that already works. All we need to do is just create a more robust sign up page where you actually add your gender and your preferred gender. And once you have those things, we can basically start matching you with people. So yeah, I think that's going to be an easier way to do it. Okay. That's it for today. We're going to come back on Wednesday and see if we can start working on this a little bit.